friends of the true self. Welcome to satsang. My name is Evelyn. I'm really happy you are here. And satsang is such a precious moment for us because we are meeting one another, not just on what is expounded on, not just on the level of the word, the level of concepts, the level of content, whatever you are ingesting, and also not just on a frequential level, on a level of energetics by talking about truth and the truth of the self and the truth of reality. Reality being the formless substratum or screen of all that appears. But what is literally listening to these kind of talks is yourself, real self, true nature. And so there is also a level of beingness that is unified and that receives without you actually necessarily even being aware of it. But what I invite you to do after watching this video or other videos that are coming from that space of remembrance is that you check in with yourself what happens for you during and after these kind of talks. And when you put your attention to it, you will start to see that your own self starts to expand on its own accord. And what arises for you afterwards are the distinct qualities that come out of that space precisely for you, for your own remembrance. And so it's always, a satsang is always a pointing to what you are. And it's always an invitation for your remembrance and also for your awareness. And what arises in these kind of talks for you is then a certain amount, level of clarity, for example, or a certain level of insight, or a certain level of joy or love. And all of these are causeless. It isn't necessarily happening through the words that I am saying here. It is happening on its own accord. It is simply arising within you as a remembrance of what you are. And so you can start placing your attention also simply on what happens for you. Is there an expansion happening? Do you feel more joyous suddenly after? Is there suddenly a clarity or a stillness that kicks in? Just a level of quiet contentment, quiet peace. These are all the attributes of the true self that start to come on their own accord, just by listening, just by being present. And so I'm very glad we can share these kind of meeting grounds in this way, simply by acknowledging that a part of you is already unified and is already enlightened, is already fully illuminated, is the presence you are looking for. And these are moments of remembrance. And so this is why satsang is really important, or simply being, sharing truth, real truth, what you are. Before that, the remembrance of that truth. And what I'm sharing in many of these videos is an ancient text over 2000 years old, and I'm writing a commentary on it. And it is one of the really pristinely beautiful texts. I'm right now writing right now commentary on chapter 3, and I'm just very, very happy about seeing and being aware of the beauty of this text, and all these kind of qualities that come then more genuinely out of the self, the clarity, the beauty. They are a bit otherworldly. They are otherworldly, the expansion, the clarity. They are all otherworldly because what you're tapping into is not your everyday contracted idea, assumed version of self, but they come from presence, from your divine self, your true self, part of you that is ever expansive, the part of you that cannot, never be fully known and never fully described. There's always a mysterious part about it. And it is that once you become aware of this dimension of yourself, and that's for me to tell you also, because a lot of you know first of all, on an intellectual level, that you are awareness. You know you are consciousness. A lot of the people that are listening are already intellectually, mentally aware that you are this consciousness, you are this awareness. And for some of you, you already also know that there is this part of yourself. You have come a little bit into contact with a part of yourself that is expansive, that is not bound to the limits of the senses, the limits of the personal self. You have come into contact with this. But for all of you, you have to know that you can really discover yourself on that level. Meaning, it's not just an experience, a one-time experience that you have, and you come into contact with that, and then go back into this sense of self that is bound to the body. But you can discover yourself being consciousness. And then this starts to be what you know yourself to be primarily, before anything appears, before an idea of a person even emerges. This is then firmly grounded as your identity. And what shows up is an expression of that, but no longer what you know yourself to be. And this can be discovered. This can be discovered experientially to the degree that this then shifts for you. And that's really important to know, because so many times there's always this talk about consciousness being somehow what we are. And what isn't clear is that it is discoverable for everyone, because everyone is that. And this is then also when actually it starts to become really interesting, because what you're knocking on is you're knocking on heaven's door. You're knocking on your own divinity. You're allowing this to come forward. And you are then also allowing a different experience of reality, different exploration of reality, a different adventure of what this whole show is about. And then it is also, you bring in these otherworldly qualities into this reality for everyone. And this is what I hope for all of you, is that your purpose starts to be divinely inspired. Divinely inspired purpose is by you allowing this dimension of the true self to actually inspire your purpose, to have this kind of wisdom come into the different aspects of reality that we see now, to inspire, for example, if you're really, if your life is about truth or justice, to inspire a different truth to come forward in life. If it's about beauty, to allow a different form of beauty or art to come into form, to allow a different form of wisdom, a different form of clarity, a different form of knowledge of the divine, of knowledge of unity, of oneness, to come into this life with you being its emission. How is it called? You being the one that is demonstrating this new understanding in your distinct field of interest. So in the Yoga Sutra, I'm now at a point in which Patanjali discusses what are the hindrances actually, like what keeps people from knowing themselves fully. What is it actually about? What are the mental stories that can keep you sort of put into a place that you are not discovering this dimension of yourself, that you're not coming into full contact? And the first one he mentions is sickness, disease. And so you can, how your storyline, your mental idea of self can revolve a lot about sickness, either becoming sick or being already sick, and then it can keep you in a very contracted kind of place that is continuously actually focused on this disease, focused on that kind of sickness, and all the stories that come with that. Doesn't mean that when you have something in your body or you are getting ill, that you're not treating it, that you're not going to the doctor. It isn't about bypassing what is necessary. It is about seeing how identity envelops. Like if every day you're thinking about either becoming sick or being sick, or whether you're a little bit more um, a little bit more healthy today than you were yesterday, and how your focus is enmeshed, how your identity is warped around that. And these hindrances and these obstacles, they were the same back then than they are now. And you can just think about them and you can reflect about them, how much of your attention or your awareness goes into these different topics. And the first one is sickness. Like how much is your identity warped around that? About and what is also really helpful to know for you is that all these thoughts, especially if it's more like a mental sickness, like if you're depressed or if you're very anxious, these are all not you, and they are all not necessarily even coming from you. You might actually reflect something that is happening on a more unified level. But it's really relevant for you to remember that whatever mm, whatever is washed about is not you, and to also find that kind of relief. Sometimes sickness or disease is actually a catalyst for finding that which is aware of the body, aware of the sensations, aware of the thoughts that underlies it, can also help you uh, gain distance from it. Then the second thing he mentions is a certain heaviness in the mind. It is a certain mental fatigue. It is about you actually not wanting. So there's a certain form of resistance towards awakening, towards these teachings. It can be a real resistance, a resistance that's often then also coming up with some form of excuse why you are actually not really stopping the mind, why you are actually not really going on the path of sincere awakening, why you are not dedicating yourself to this, why you are not allowing yourself the space to actually investigate, to inquire, to do self-inquiry. Is a form of mental heaviness. That's also oftentimes just the mind. The mind has its own stories. First of all, there's such a momentum to you believing that you are this person, that all sorts of excuses and ideas will come up rather than you actually investigating. You're actually starting to look. You're actually starting to meditate. You're actually starting to contemplate even. You're starting to listen. You're starting to do a course or a retreat or whatever it is in in which the true self is discussed. And then the next one he mentions, big obstacle, is doubt, like the fear. What is it? The fear of losing your focalized perspective. It's really the fear of death, the fear of the void, the fear of letting go of this perspective that you know so well, looking out through the senses and trying to grasp reality from this focalized point of view. And this doubt can is also like a mental barrier, mental fear, and a mental story in the end. It's a thought that can also be witnessed. All of these things can be witnessed. It is so that the person you are already actually in your life, you are most of the time witnessing your own thoughts, your own stories, the stories of your life, what is happening. There is already a witnessing agent that continuously judges and stipulates and has ideas. And then there's a deeper awareness there that is also aware of the person, aware of whatever is arising as a thought, actually, as an idea or an assumption of self, that is aware of the person arising and its intricacies and its constructed assumptions. And then there is carelessness and laziness. There are two more of the obstacles. The first one is I don't actually really care about my true self. Yeah, it's probably 90% of the population still is like I am completely in the enjoyment, and even if it's not such an enjoyment in this life, I don't actually really care. There's a certain depth to you because probably you've been on this path in many lives. So there is a certain depth to you that you're actually caring about the true self and caring about what it implies for this world, actually, your own awakening, your own wisdom of self, your own deepening, your own remembrance. And laziness is also a form of mental rebellion. It's also a form of strategy. It's also a form of conditioning that we have. That's our own resistance sometimes to even what is good for us. This is a laziness about this topic, or carelessness about this topic. And then there is an obstacle that is indulgence or addiction. That's actually the same. It's the Sanskrit word for it is the same. And it is you indulging in a certain story, or as an indulgence, or as an addiction in an object. The object or the story becomes what you take yourself to be, and becomes so interesting for you that you're sort of hooked onto this. Again, all of it can be observed from the space of awareness. There's always something deeper that can also become aware of these kind of strategies or these kind of mechanisms. And then the next obstacle is the egoic, simply the egoic stance, the stance of your person. The stance of the person can be in the way of your awakening, to continuously come back to a personal preference, a personal insistence, a personal story, a personal assumption of self. This whole you will have to go, deeper than this personal self. You will have to go beyond the ideas that make up your self right now, to come into an awareness of what you are, to come into deeper recognition. And then there is obviously also stagnation. It's for many people that do a lot of meditation that is focused on objects, focused on things, or that are doing a lot of spiritual energetic work. And it can keep you also stagnating in a way, because at some point, and for those of you that this is relevant, this will speak to you. For some of you, there is a stop, there is a stagnation, there is no more. You might, or there is a certain lethargy that sets in. No matter what you discover, at the end of the day, you land back into this and into your mind and into the stories of the mind. No matter what you energetically experience, no matter what you do, no matter what kind of things you try out. And that's a good thing, because there is a certain exhaustion kicking in, and that exhaustion leads you to actually want to go deeper than what is available on the level of experience. So all of them are obstacles right now, and it's good to reflect on them. And the last one he mentions is instability or an unsteadiness. It is to be interested a little bit in the true self. So like you would like to dip your toe into it, but what you truly are, but not really go for it. And you will probably have to go really for it, so that you recognize the self. So there's no I'm now in this. It's not a class. It's not like a 1 month kind of thing, and then you become unsteady and you say, okay, I cast this aside, and I come back to it. It has to be part of what you want. There has to be a desire for it, to desire for presence to make itself known to you. Desire for your true self to reveal itself to you. A desire for truth to emerge from within you. Desire for you to know, you to be the one that shares and that reveals. Thank you so much for listening, and have a beautiful day. Namaste.